Hello, hello. So for today, we're going to be presenting on microaggressions. And so you might be asking yourself, what are microaggressions? And it's a relatively new word that I even came across of as a person of color, female identifying, going in an area of higher education where folks don't necessarily identify as me, right? So, buckle up, we're in for a ride, and hopefully you'll be able to gather some information today that'll help you navigate through life a lot differently starting today, just because our identity affects how we navigate through life. And so by having the information on what microaggressions is, you'll be able to move through life a lot more consciously and also just taking care of yourself as an individual and who you are as a person. So who am I? For those who are new, my name is Jazmin Rojas, pronouns she, they. I am a fourth year at UCI, where I am studying psychological and biological sciences. So quick disclaimer before we officially get started, the information presented today is not therapy. If any of this information identifies with you and you want to seek some help, feel free to contact us for further assistance. And also be aware that at the end of the presentation, I'll be able to provide some resources based on the Coachella Valley. So community agreements, I like to have a set of rules where we kind of, establish that this is a safe space. And most importantly, this is your space. So first and foremost, throw sunshine, not shade. We're in a room of positivity. Secondly, what is said here stays here. What is learned here leaves here. Understand that, you're in a safe space. Feel free to be as vulnerable as possible. If you're willing and able to, this is your community. And lastly, take space, make space. So for today, we're going to be defining microaggressions and also providing some real life examples. And secondly, being aware of what microaggressions are and also how they're seen in life. And so we want to make sure we're able to minimize microaggressions, prevent microaggressions, and make sure we know how to respond when microaggressions are actually occurring. So microaggressions. So I have this awesome video that goes beyond the simple definition. Like on the textbook, microaggressions are defined as everyday, subtle, intentional or unintentional interactions or behaviors that communicate some sort of bias towards historically marginalized groups. And so this was defined by Kevin Nadal, a professor of psychology at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. So if that definition just doesn't hit the right spot, I have this awesome video that I'd like to share with you. So something that I just want to make a note of again is that microaggressions are some form of hate. They're racist. As seen in the video, there's a lot of things. Can I touch your hair? I thought you were something more exotic. That's something that I even experienced at UCI. I started speaking Spanish on the phone and someone was like, oh, you're Mexican. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I thought you were something more exotic. In my head, I had no idea what that meant, right? And it wasn't until I came across this term where I was like, that is a microaggression. And you have to really realize that these words have intent versus impact. Hearing these comments like, can I touch your hair, seem really harmless, but having to hear them constantly can really make an impact to someone, right? And there's research that really shows how racism and discrimination contributes to poor health among minorities and people of color. And it can really result into increased rates of depression, prolonged stress, trauma, anxiety, and even type 2 diabetes. And as seen on the screen, it really has a negative impact on your personality, always self-doubting, frustration, and even isolation. So awareness, how can we minimize and prevent microaggressions? So first and foremost, be aware and be informed. By figuring out very small comments that we just came across in the video, you're able to understand when it's actually happening. And so minimizing, you want to lead by example, you want to facilitate the discussion and build a supportive culture, right? And all of this happens over a long period of time. It just doesn't happen overnight. And so by being mindful, thinking of what you say, you're able to lead the example to others. And when these conversations happen, like, where are you from? You can really facilitate a discussion and ask, what are you asking? Are you asking about my family, where they're originating from, or are you asking if I was born in Indio, California, right? Things of that nature. And so ways to prevent it. First and foremost, think before you speak. It's really important to ask yourself, is this helpful? Will it be offensive? If there's a probability of that a joke will offend someone, it's better not to say it, right? And try to practice micro affirmations, things that uplift people, that welcome them and honor their presence. for practicing cultural humility, don't assume you know what people are. Practice not knowing so that you're in the position of learning more about those around you. And remember your friends. Remember that having friends that belong to marginalized communities doesn't excuse you to use slurs and other microaggressions. That's really important, especially now with the conversation, leave particular words to certain communities. And even if you grew within those communities, it does not give you the card to continue using those racial slurs. So how to respond to microaggressions? It's really important to understand the context that you're in, right? If you don't feel safe, you have to know when to leave the situation. If not, it's always welcoming to seek support and don't internalize the racism, right? I get it. We hear things negative and it hurts us. And speaking on the behalf of myself, I stay thinking about it. I tend to ruminate and think, oh, this really happened. Maybe I could have done something differently, right? And it can be tempting to want to change something about yourself or your behavior in order to feel more accepted. But it's really important to stay grounded in the fact that you are not the issue. It's more a topic about racism, right? And so knowing when to leave a situation is really important. And it can be really challenging, especially in the workplace. But it's really important to understand when you need to distance yourself from a toxic situation. You have to think about how many repeated times it's happened. Discrimination can be really taxing and harmful. But at the end of the day, it's really important to recognize when you've hit your limit and when you need to prioritize yourself. I know it was a lot. I hope you're able to sit with the information, and if any of this information applies to you, feel free to continue doing research or even reach out to us where we can continue to have this conversation. Also, if you need further help, I've listed down these 4 essential resources, 4 out of the many that the Coachella Valley has, but in particularly these 4 really apply to this topic at hand, such as the Student Health and Wellness Service at College of the Desert Flow Resource Center. They're very helpful and very universal, whereas the All Desert Wellness Center provides free services for folks above the age of 18, and also the Oasis Coachella Center. They're open Monday through Friday, and they're more than welcome to help you out.